Time now for a check of what's happening in the world of business. And Brian Quinn is here with me now. Hi there, Brian.
Hey, Tom.
Let's begin with Google, very much in the hot seat because the US government has filed what's likely to be the biggest antitrust case in decades.
That's right. The United States Justice Department and 11 individual states have filed a landmark antitrust lawsuit against Google, accusing it of using illegal monopoly practices to maintain its dominance over rivals in search and advertising. The move follows months of inquiries by both federal and state antitrust investigators. It comes amid similar probes into other tech giants like Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. The lawsuit, a rare moment of accord between Republicans, who often accuse Silicon Valley of anti-conservative bias, and progressive Democrats, who complain that tech giants stifle competition and exacerbate inequality. Observers are comparing the suit to historical precedents against Microsoft and AT&T. The government reportedly seeking, quote, structural relief, which would suggest it's seeking to force Google to divest at least some of its key subsidiaries. Analysts say it's likely just the beginning of a major confrontation between Washington and the tech industry.
I think this is a serious step up in the move on the antitrust front, as we've seen the Beltway versus big tech, and the DOJ throwing their hat in the ring definitely, I think steps this up from a, risk profile. I think investors right now, it's a bit wait and see, but this is sort of, I think, the first step of what we're going to see are broader pressures against big tech with Google front and center.
Here in France, the brutal murder of a middle school teacher after he showed students cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad is leading to a wide crackdown on perceived Islamist radicalism. The government now shining a light on social networks as part of the problem. Junior Interior Minister Marlene Schiappa met with the French bosses of digital firms including Google, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok to discuss how they can contribute to the fight against, quote, cyber-Islamism. Here's Schiappa.
Je crois que nous avons à faire face à une nouvelle génération de jeunes qui ne se sont pas radicalisés en allant dans une mosquée radicalisée, en faisant une mauvaise rencontre ou en prison, mais qui se sont radicalisés chez eux, dans leur chambre, tout seuls, face à un écran de téléphone ou face à un écran d'ordinateur. Et là, c'est notre responsabilité collective qui est engagée, et c'est pour empêcher le nouveau passage à l'acte que nous devons prendre ensemble de nouvelles mesures.
And next, London's Heathrow Airport has launched new rapid COVID-19 tests for outbound travelers, with results returned in roughly an hour. The new program, a joint effort by Heathrow, British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, and Cathay Pacific. For now, the test, which costs £80, is only available for those traveling to Hong Kong, which requires arriving passengers to have a negative test. Screening for European destinations is expected to be rolled out within days. It's part of a bid to reopen routes for airlines devastated by the coronavirus. The industry has lost hundreds of billions of euros over the course of the pandemic. One of the firms running Heathrow's testing program says the process is likely to become a part of the new normal for some time to come.
I think what we'll see over the coming months is we'll see centres like this in airports around the world. We'll start to work with bilateral agreements so that every country can start to understand and approve testing on departure areas from accredited labs. And I think this will just be, as with security screening when it came in the 70s, this will be something that we're going to be living with for the next 6 to 12 months and perhaps beyond.
Time now for a check on the day's trading action. Wall Street making some decent headway after significant losses in Monday's session. Investors optimistic that a deal between the Trump administration and congressional Democrats on a new economic stimulus package might be reached by the end of the day. The Dow up nearly 0.9% amid gains in airline and pharmaceutical shares. The S&P and the Nasdaq just slightly ahead. European indexes mixed on Tuesday as investors fret over record new coronavirus infections on the continent. London's FTSE 100 ended the day just above flatline. The CAC 40 here in Paris finished down just over 0.25%, while the Frankfurt DAX closed nearly 1% in the red. Well, here's some more of the day's top business headlines we're following for you at this hour. Sweden has banned both Huawei and ZTE from its nascent 5G data networks. The country's telecoms authority citing security concerns for the block on two of China's top network equipment providers. Swedish carriers currently using Huawei or ZTE equipment will have to remove it from their systems by 2025. And U.S. chipmaker Intel has agreed to sell its NAND memory chip unit to South Korea's SK Hynix for roughly $9 billion. The NAND arm represents most of Intel's memory chip business and should make Hynix the world's number 2 NAND chip maker as it looks to take on number 1 Samsung. It will also divest Intel of a major Chinese factory as trade tensions between the U.S. and China continue to deepen. Well, to Kenya next, where, as in much of the developing world, the coronavirus pandemic has heralded an alarming increase in the use of child labor. The UN has no hard figures on just how big the rise has been, but it's believed to have affected millions of children. Solange Moujan reports.
Since the coronavirus hit, books and lessons have been replaced by hammers and back-breaking work. 12-year-old Elimanta spends her days crushing rocks alongside her 7 and 10-year-old siblings.
While the other children play, we have to work. We earn money that our mother uses to take care of us. Sometimes when Mom finds work elsewhere, we still have to come here alone.
Their mother, a cleaning lady in a private school, lost her job when the coronavirus came to Kenya. So the family's been forced to work at the quarry. It pays each of them less than $1 a day.
I have to work with them because I make very little money and they need to eat. When we work as a team, we can make enough money for breakfast and also lunch.
Even if child labor is illegal in Kenya, many families have been left with little choice. Country-specific figures are still being calculated, but UNICEF believes that millions of children in the developing world may have been forced into hard labor or child prostitution by the pandemic, leading to potentially lifelong ramifications for kids across the globe.
UNICEF has learnt from things like Ebola. The longer kids are out of school, the more likely for the poorest, yet again the poorest, won't actually return.
The good news is that since 2000, some 97 million children have been kept from child labor. But rights groups fear that the coronavirus could roll back these 2 decades of progress, of getting kids out of trash dumps, quarries and sweatshops and into schools.
And finally, for business, as if we weren't already running out of places to use poor cell reception for not picking up the phone, Nokia has been picked by NASA to construct the first cellular network on the moon. The American Space Agency planning for a future in which humans maintain permanent settlements on Earth's only natural satellite. NASA wants to return humans to the moon by 2024 to prepare that long-term presence, with the network scheduled to be installed prior to those manned missions in 2022. One thing it will not have, apparently, is 5G. The network is to be built on the more tried and true 4G LTE. Presumably, it also probably won't have Huawei equipment, I'm going to guess, Thomas, and maybe no TikTok either.
No, I would have thought probably not. And too bad they're not getting 5G on the moon, because
someday
it'll take that much longer to get a message back to Earth.
It's only 2020, only 2022 by that point, maybe someday.
All right, well, thank you very much indeed for that, Brian Quinn, for On the Business Desk. Thank you so much for that. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us here on France 24.